level of wealth, you get no incremental happiness. So why on earth would you not go back to a tax policy of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where say above, pick a big number, 10 million, you actually pay more than 10%, maybe more than 20%, maybe more than 50%, because the difference between 30,000 a year for a household and 50,000 is enormous to the well-being of that household. Low-income kids in low-income households have higher resting blood pressure, but the difference between making 10 million a year and 15 million a year offers you no happiness. But these individuals have weaponized government, and we risk revolution, whether it's CEOs being murdered in the street, whether it's a Me Too movement that had righteous components of it, or Black Lives Matter. What are these movements? They are targeting the wealthy. We are in the midst of a series of small revolutions to correct income inequality. And the reason we put an insurrectionist and a rapist in office.
Very interesting. This is Scott Galloway. He makes for very captivating segments. This is him on Morning Joe again. I don't know if you remember back in the summer, I'll play maybe the whole clip. From a while, I did a react to Scott Galloway. I was like, who is this dude? I still don't really know who he is. He's authored some interesting books. Of course, his tax ideology does not jive with me, but he's very captivating. And he's one of those guys, either he's perfectly on point or he's not. Kind of like a Scott Adams, but he's more on point more often than Scott Adams. I would say maybe 70% of the time I would agree with Scott Galloway here. But let's continue on. His answer is to give the government more power to solve these problems, which obviously that doesn't coincide with me. But the problems that he's looking at are true. He's like, we're looking at revolt type, we're looking at vigilante type stuff that we don't know if it's going to continue, but if you link it to BLM, to J6, you could see a string of concerning events based on economics.
Is because for the first time in our nation's history, a 30-year-old man or woman isn't doing as well as his or her parents were at 30. Why? Because the majority of households are having the oxygen sucked out of the room, such that a small number of individuals and a small number of companies can be worth more than nation states. Income inequality is out of control. Our tax policy has gone full oligarch.
Okay, so he's saying that basically he's a tax the rich type of dude. And I do want to, before I play the clip from a while back with him, he just let me know what you think about Scott Galloway. What he's saying here is, I would say that I brought this up on a previous video about the idea of the private sector and the public sector government. Our federal government is our federal government, though, is no different than a business. And if you get rid of it, so I don't know where I am with that whole libertarian stuff, because I probably would not be an ANCAP, because I'm working through it and seeing, well, if you get rid of the federal government, which I'm perfectly fine with in theory, but I want to know what happens after that, then you have private companies. That really is no different. The only difference is the public doesn't have a say, doesn't have any transparency. I know we don't have much with the public government, but we'll get to that. The private industry is a government. I mean, look at the defense contractors, for example. We pay taxes to the government. The government buys weapons from Lockheed Martin or Raytheon and them. Those same weapons get bought by, we give Israel money, for example. Israel buys those weapons back. So the defense contractors make the money on both ends. So we taxpayers give money to the federal government. Federal government buys weapons from the defense contractors. So this incentivizes war. Why wouldn't they have war? It's not like if you have war, the taxes stop. So you buy the weapons. They also take our federal government and they give them to Israel, give our money to Israel. Every year we break them off, $4 billion just off of GP. And then depending on what happens, even more than that. Israel says we're buying weapons. So recently Biden said, well, we're selling weapons to Israel. Well, Israel's buying the weapons back with our own tax money. And what happens? They're buying them again through the defense contractors. So the defense contractors are making money on both ends of this deal. And the reason I bring that up is, say you take out the federal government. That process still happens. It's just direct with the defense contractors. The process would not stop if you take out the federal government, because you would have to have some type of defense for your territories. Otherwise, you would just have another country take you over. But let me take, so that my whole point of that is saying is, if I'm not against the federal government doesn't exist without taxes. I just don't think they should be mandatory. So you'd have to work through what happens if you don't want to pay your taxes. You don't get the same resources. That'd be a difficult one to work through. But that's another topic for another day. Let's go back to when I saw him trending from MSNBC. I was like, I got to go back to the original. For me, this is the first time I'd seen him before, but never really paid attention to him. This rant right here was pretty epic.
So in America, we've decided to try and create a super class of billionaires. And then if they win the gold medal, we're going to give them the silver and the bronze. Two biggest tax deductions, capital gains and mortgage interest. Who owns homes and stocks? People my age. Who doesn't know? Who rents and makes their money from current income? Young people. So we've decided that the wealthiest people in the world should get exceptionally more wealthy. Minimum wage stuck at $9.25. Stock market is screamed up. The average 70-year-old is 72% wealthier than they were 40 years ago. The average person under the age of 40 is 24% less wealthy. We are purposely transferring more wealth from the poor and middle class to the upper class to the super rich, and from young to old.
And you say in the book, which is true and alarming, but let's say a 30-year-old American in America right now is doing no better than his or her parents. Then that's a new thing in American history that you would think over time, we want to do better than the next generation, than the last generation.
When you see something that's a new thing, then you're going to see other new things happen based on that.
It's not happening anymore.
I think it all ties into what we're talking about on campuses. For the first time in our nation's history, a 30-year-old man or woman isn't doing as well as his or her parents were at 30. That is the social compact breaking down. People aged 30 to 34, 60% of them in 1990 had one child. Now it's 27%. People are opting out of America. They're not optimistic about it. They're not having kids. Young people aren't having sex. They're not meeting. They're not mating. The pool of emotionally and economically viable men shrinks every day, which lessens household formation. So we have a real issue. Young people are enraged. So it turns every cut, every movement into an opportunistic infection because, quite frankly, they are just pissed off. They look up, they see wealth, exceptional wealth across my generation and people in certain industries, and they are really struggling. Their purchasing power is going down, and the incumbents create artificial scarcity on campus. We take pride in rejecting 90% of our applicants.
Why wasn't this more of the message? This is the Democrats failing. And I would say I align, believe it or not, I kind of align more with where he is. There's some strong disagreements there. You have to be careful with the class argument, but this is not a race argument that he's making. He does bring it up sometimes a little bit, but if you take that out, I align more with them than I do with MAGA 24 right now, for sure. And I don't know why this isn't the message. You let Trump win easily. You let him off the hook. That was Dennis Green, who was like, we let him off the hook. You let him off the hook. Donald Trump didn't have to do anything but say, I'm common sense. I don't mess around with these gender things like they do. That's why AOC, right after the election, took the pronouns out of her ex bio. Mark Zuckerberg took the tampons out of I guess it's tampons in the male bathroom in Meta. That's wild, man. Can you imagine going into a bathroom as a man and seeing tampons? That's effing wild. He took them out, though, recently. Serious story. Tim Walz is probably somewhere crying right now. And he took the Transformers, like emojis out and stuff, I think it was, or something like that, stickers out of Facebook. I think it's all fake and phony, but my point is you just made it too easy for Trump to be like, damn, y'all getting a little crazy now. Let me just vote Trump. A lot of people who didn't even like Trump were like, let me just vote Trump, man. Y'all getting wild. This right here, this would resonate. I don't know where that message is or what's going on, but that will be this right here will be the future of the Democrat Party for sure. Let's finish this off. Scott Galloway.
So the incumbents who already have a degree see their degree go up in value. We get very concerned with housing and traffic once we own the housing. Housing permits are sequestered from young people. Housing prices have gone from $290 to $420 in the last 4 years. So a young person, a house, stocks that I don't own skyrocket in value. Let's have COVID relief and flush the markets and take assets way up, because if 1 million people dying would be bad, would be tragic if I got less wealthy. And we're doing it on their.
This is a unique message, man. I haven't heard many people, especially on MSNBC. I don't know how he gets on MSNBC, but I haven't heard many people. I don't know if he's left or what, but that seems like a more left, for lack of a better, progressive, for lack of a better term, approach. And I don't know why that's not more of the message, man. This is resonating. This cuts through. It's really good stuff.
Credit card. Young people have every reason to be enraged, and every issue they see, they look up, they get angry, and they see someone doing better than them. And then every day it is speedballed in their face that they are failing, that they are not doing as well as everyone around them.
Yep.
We have lost the script. Our kids are more anxious and more depressed and more obese and more addicted. And we have made a purposeful decision to let this happen by ensuring the people around this table stay wealthy at the cost of young people.
Whoa, he was spitting right there. My goodness. This dude, Ray Vaughn, did a diss on Joey Badass. Nobody on the channel probably knows about who these people are, but he was spitting bars on that diss. And Scott Galloway has some bars right there. Woo! He was at the table. That's some fire right there, man. That's some fire. Let me know what you think. Does it resonate with you? It resonates with me.
The next clip is ready below. Welcome to After Show Carnage.